Forced adversity.
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying, fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
And they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Welcome to the Fab. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her. Oh, and by the way, on behalf of the people of the United States.
Hell yeah. We got President Reagan joining us from hell, where he almost certainly is. But you know who's not in hell? Me, when I'm hanging out with these folks. Hey. Am I audible? Do I sound better now?
You sound beautiful.
Cool. Thanks for the being patient with the delay. Because hopefully have better internet now.
Yeah, cool.
It was
I could be down here and be GI Robot all night.
Oh, hey, what's up, GI Robot? Let me get that off of you, Bob. So you're not.
Oh no, it's cool.
You're cool sharing space with him. Okay.
Yeah. Why would I not be? I'm not a dirty Nazi.
Yeah, it's becoming a circle fap now.
It's gonna go from a fap to a full-on orgy.
How's it going, Ryan?
Pretty good.
Ryan had the audacity to message me earlier and say, "Hey, do you mind if I come on the show later?" I'm like, "What are you fucking talking about?" Of course. Just do it. Yeah. Glad to have you, man.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so the Daily Wire is on fire, and we can keep on with that rhyme scheme if you guys want. But it is part of a larger trend, I think, of which we talked a little bit about on Friday. So if you missed that, or if you just need to be reminded, because it's a whole weekend, I forget lots of shit. So we looked at like Jeremy Hambly is $300,000 in debt. That's almost. I mean, it's partially because he made the dumb decision of financing a bunch of his coffee business shit on his credit card, apparently, which is so fucking stupid. But there's that. And then, just in general, all of the Chud's views are down, including even Nerdrotic, who just hit 1 million subs last year. And he just seemed like he was, the sky was the limit. Well, apparently he reached the sky, which was the limit. And and now he's on his way back down in view count. And then I haven't looked at Critical Drinker, but like, then there was of course, the RIP averse, as I'm going to call it now.
Oh,
DOA averse, and it's just not looking good for these guys, which is weird because like they won. You know what I mean? All of this culture war shit they've been doing for years, they achieved the goal that they almost certainly were trying to achieve. At least the first part of it, which is get him into power again. because we fucked it up last time. And then, but now, of course, the next step is maintain it. But I think that's going to be the much harder step for them. And this Daily Wire thing is, I think, partially connected to that overall thing, but I think it's got its own specific catalysts going on as well. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about why do fascists love AI so much?
They fucking love it.
For all the decline of all those views of those channels, as long as the Epic verse is pumping out good quality movies, I'm happy.
Ooh, yeah,
Brian,
any day
some
now.
bad news for you.
The Ripperverse failed us. Save us, Epicverse, please.
Yeah, so I definitely don't want to, I didn't have a full understanding of, I don't know, we'll talk about this, but like, I don't want anybody to get too hyped about this and think that, oh, we won, or that our content's going to be the dominant one or something, because that's not necessarily the case at all.
They have the money and the resources to course correct. It's just whether they can.
Yeah. Well, also, I think that, let's just look at the story first before we get too into it and tell everybody what's going on. Of course, I have to reopen all these windows because I fucking had to turn off my computer. 1 second. The one day that I decided to get prepared before the stream, like I got all my windows open, and then I got to restart, and now I got to, Okay, here we go. So, looking at, well, there's a rumor, okay, and it's from a guy named Ian Carroll, and it's based on the fact that in the last couple weeks ago now, Jeremy Boring, who was one of the co-owners of Daily Wire, along with Ben Shapiro, and then I think the guy's name is Wilk, he was unceremoniously reduced in his position from president. And as he's called himself, God King of Daily Wire, he's just kind of in charge of some creative stuff now, which is a weird thing. And then you see Ben Shapiro and others going around on news shows and stuff, telling Megyn Kelly or whoever that this is because he's working on this giant Pendragon cycle series that I know Bob wants to talk about, and that he's just going to be too focused on that and all this giant creative output that we're doing. It's it's just that's his job. He can't be the president of the growing Daily Wire anymore. So they're completely, they're selling it as that this is a positive thing or a necessary thing, that it has nothing to do with, it's not a punitive, action or anything like that. But then there are lots of reports otherwise. So, let's see. So on March 18th, Daily Wire and Boring announced he was stepping down. In a press release, Boring said, "When Ben, Caleb, and I founded the Daily Wire in 2015, we set out to build an institution. I'm enormously proud of our team and of our many battles and of the successes we've achieved together over the last decade. And we're just getting started. To get us to the heights we know we can achieve, we have brought in a world-class executive team." So that's the kind of thing, honestly, that, like, if you were doing great, I don't think anybody would feel the need to bring in an executive team to replace you, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's confident that we'll thrive and blah 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 blah. But it's looking like, at least based on some rumors. Actually, I have the clip of that Carol guy's video. I haven't watched it yet, but we can watch it now.
Yeah, Ian Carroll is a Matt Walsh stan.
Okay.
So we just consider that when you play his video, but
That
he
is
still
he gives off no indication of where he's at politically in this. At least
at the very end. At the very end, he does.
Okay, I see.
Wire is going bankrupt, allegedly, and Jeremy Boring is officially out as CEO. That's right. The self-proclaimed God King of the Daily Wire is at the heart of so many scandals. And yes, he is self-described as the God King. And the email just went out today internally that he is stepping down, and now Axios is covering the story. It has not yet broken, as far as I'm aware, that private equity is moving in and looking to buy up the Daily Wire. I heard, rumor mill, that Silver Lake Capital is looking to buy them up. And Silver Lake, you guys might want to watch this video before you think too hard about it, because there's a lot that is not in the public square right now. We're about to get into stuff like canceled credit cards, lying to the press, trying to trick Tim Pool. As far as I can tell from my sources, even people inside of the Daily Wire only know part.
See, that's the thing. And we're going to look at that on Wednesday on the showcast, because, that's going to be too juicy if that movie doesn't even get to come out. I mean, it honestly is it might be kind of a cross purposes. I don't know, because what's his name? I mean, what's her name? Brett Cooper left the Daily Wire. She's the star of that thing.
My understanding was they scrapped it.
What's that?
My understanding of it was that they scrapped it. Maybe I'm a bit.
Okay, well then.
Yeah,
it was it was a race between them and Disney, because the reason Disney is doing all their live action remakes is to maintain the IP.
Yeah,
because a lot of these things become these characters become public domain in a few years. So I think Daily Wire was hoping they could get a Snow White movie out first, and then they would have the IP rights.
They probably shouldn't have treated Brett Cooper like shit.
I'm not sure, because Snow White, obviously, the character in the original story's been in the public domain. Yeah.
So I mean, the specific depiction that Disney's specific depiction of Snow White will be public domain in, I think, 2032. So they have to make new depictions of her.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So we'll definitely see of the dwarves being horror monsters, right? Because that's what happens when these things go.
Yeah, there'll be a horror Snow White.
There will be a horror,
and red.
But there's some indication that the reason Brett Cooper left is because she had beef with Jeremy Boring specifically.
Right. Lots of that. Lots of rumors of people. Lots of people with beef with Jeremy, including Ben Shapiro. And these guys were fucking best friends. They started this Daily Wire thing in 2015 after Boring was fired from, I forget the name of the entertainment group or whatever. And Ben Shapiro left because his buddy got fired. So they left together essentially and started Daily Wire. And now it seems like they are at odds. So, I mean, honestly, it does seem like Jeremy Boring's ego got a little bit in the way, or at least his desperate need to, he's a theater guy from way back.
They both are.
Of course. And then, so of course, he gets a media company off the ground, and he gets like a little streaming platform that, from what I can tell, was doing okay. They had, I think, 890,000 subscribers. But then, as Bob will talk about, I'm sure that this other thing is in a whole other ordeal, the Pendragon cycle.
Well, thinking if you think about traditional media was always very expensive to get off the ground.
Yes.
And obviously new media isn't. But in order to maintain finances, traditional media relies on the millions and millions that advertising brings in.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that new media just doesn't have, no matter how many ad reads they do.
Well,
and
so
they
I have
seem to do a lot.
who owns the Daily Wire. Who, what? How did they get off the ground? Who's got an investment in it, right? And that. But like, I just want to point this fact out. Asmongold, right? The guy who casually picks roaches off of himself without, like, it happens all the time, right? The guy that has a blood wall by his bed where he wakes up and like rubs his gums blood onto the wall and. Probably, doesn't shower but like a couple times a month or something. That guy has 100 times the views on many of his videos that Daily Wire content has. And that's why. Yeah. That's the problem. That's like why I say don't get too excited about, like, oh, chuds aren't watching content. No, they're watching content. It's just that they only wanted the pseudo-intellectual buttoned up guys long enough to get into power. And now they just want to relax and watch a fucking dirty, scabby guy, scratch his ass and go, based, based, when he's watching Trump videos. So,
yeah,
they still have
let this guy keep cooking here because he's got some juicy tea.
Yeah.
Part of the story, and they're all kind of getting played against each other. It's a whole mess. And the most important part of this mess is that the Daily Wire has a long history of treating their employees like shit. And so I've had numerous sources inside the Daily Wire for quite some time because everyone hates them, even their own people. That's not to mention the numerous sources outside of the Daily Wire that did not take the NDA money on the way out. Like, I had people literally in my comments on Instagram offering to give me dirt on the Daily Wire because they hated the Daily Wire so much. It's out of control. And it all centers around the God King and his fucking massive ego and his lifelong desire to be a famous actor and make it in Hollywood, which he failed at originally years and years and years ago. And so once the Daily Wire was off the ground, he just couldn't help but try to turn the Daily Wire into a Hollywood movie studio and produce the Pendragon series. Note that this article is from 2023. And he said that he had dreamt of bringing this book to the screen for 25 years. It was due to stream exclusively on Daily Wire Plus in 2024. Why didn't that happen? That's a good question. And that leads to us talking about all the Daily Wire's employees' credit cards getting frozen, allegedly.
Woof.
Yeah, I mean, this guy seems pretty confident. Of course, he's a Matt Walsh stan, so, I don't trust anything he says, really. But
Well, again, and it's boring, I know, but to talk about the finances, how many views, how many subscribers does Daily Wire Plus have?
I don't know.
Because
check it out.
They're so fine. That's really, apart from the money that we don't know about, which is sort of what I'm alluding to.
Right.
If they were running like a normal TV company, like we know that the streaming companies don't make a huge amount of money and they hemorrhage it. If the Daily Wire needs subscribers, otherwise spending any money on a project like this, which is going to cost millions,
So,
were they never going to sell it to traditional?
So that's
TV
the thing.
or...
So it seems like this is what makes me think this is all true, because a few months ago, Jeremy Boring, like the story leaked that they were thinking about that they were talking about shopping it to a larger network like Fox, and Jeremy Boring is suddenly doing an interview where he's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I kind of pictured us maybe being." So it seemed like he was fishing for someone to consider buying them to bail them out, basically.
I mean, geez, if it went on Disney Plus, that would be quite.
But
would be quite funny.
So, all right. So, just a little bit of history on the Daily Wire here before we go on any further, so we can kind of fully get context. Company is owned by Bent Key Ventures LLC. In 2015, Boring, Shapiro, and Caleb Robinson and Ferris Wilkes started the Daily Wire with an initial investment by Wilkes. According to the company's site, Shapiro and Boring came up with the idea after Boring was fired from his job. Shapiro then quit. So Wilkes is who put up the initial investment, owns it along with co-founders Boring, Shapiro, and Robinson. They all together own Bent Key. The company was previously named Forward Publishing. But let's see. So the Daily Wire had surpassed $100 million in 2022 in revenue for the first time. But you got to remember, revenue is not profit.
Right.
They were also, you got to think that like Matt Walsh, all these guys that are like, they're, independently, they're super popular on the right? Like they have big followings, and that's kind of the problem, because that's what reason does fucking Brett Cooper have to stay at the Daily Wire whenever she got so popular so quick that, it's kind of holding her back to be there. Now she's like doing her own thing and it's already blowing up.
Well, also, we've seen what the Daily Wire's, some of their editorial mandates versus the audience they have cultivated don't always mesh up. We saw that with the Luigi Mangione shooting.
The real stuff has really been kind of, look, you got a lot of Nazis on the right these days, guys, and Nazis aren't going to be cool with that.
Well, except that there is a contingent of Zionist, for lack of a better term, Nazis who ascribe to end times theology and want Israel to exist and to be violent and powerful so that they can fulfill certain imaginary biblical prophecies that.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
And there's the contingent of Nazis who believe that Israel's a good thing if all Jews go there.
Right.
Yeah. They want to kick the Jews out of their country and send them to one place. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
yeah, it's all good. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, excuse me. And I know it's the boring thing, but I'm really interested in like seeing what the books look like for a company like the Daily Wire, which only operates really in America.
Right.
It has no presence internationally.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I'm convinced that Jeremy Boring's passion project is what sunk the company.
Yeah,
I think, because that TV show looks to be ridiculously expensive.
Oops.
And I think the video we were just watching, I think that guy, Ian Carroll, reports that the Pendragon Cycle TV show is $50 million over budget. I don't know where he's getting that number from, but he's
right.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like, I don't want to hang the whole show on that guy. But yeah, we'll go back to him.
But you don't have to know the exact number. If you just like last night, I watched all of the behind the scenes production journal videos that Jeremy Boring made about the show. And it looks like, from a behind the scenes perspective, Like they put real work and
Like they're trying to
real
do a
money
Game of Thrones type thing
into the
in the
production design.
And if you go back and you look at a series like Game of Thrones, which was still a huge financial risk for HBO, if it had failed, it would have been disastrous. The actual first series of that is pretty cheap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like several spots in the first season where it's like, oh, a battle's about to happen, cut away, and then you cut back and the battle's over.
Yeah. I mean, this show has battle scenes in it. Pretty big ones based on the BTS I looked at. And like the costume designs are really intricate, and they invented a language to be spoken by the one of the groups of people in this story is refugee Atlanteans. So they invented an Atlantean language. It's a huge amount of money they sunk into this thing, and it's being run by the guy that made Lady Ballers. So they don't have so my point was, I think they don't have a subscriber base large enough to pay for it, and they don't anticipate getting enough subscriptions from the show to justify the cost of it. So Boring is kind of on the hook for all of this.
Right. And normally what you would do, or what a production company would do, is shop it around to another distributor.
Yeah, which might still happen.
It might still happen. The problem is, given his antagonistic relationship with traditional media establishments, they're either not going to want to give him the time of day, or they're going to want to take him to the cleaners.
Well, so if it's possible that they had funding pulled too. I don't know.
That's possible too, because there's a lot of their financiers that we don't have information on.
We have some. Dan and Ferris Wilkes, two brothers, basically Koch brother clones.
Sure.
Who seeded $4.7 million. They're billionaire petroleum industry guys.
Of course they are.
Over the next decade, the endeavor was wildly successful, mostly relying on profits to fuel its growth. Till 2023, Axios reported that the Daily Wire raised an undisclosed round of capital at a valuation north of $1 billion, with a few surprising new investors. One investor, Jason Kane.
Sorry, just imagine that. They were doing well, but then they got a funding of $1 billion.
Mm-hmm. And now it seems like they're cutting off credit cards and shit. Yeah. Something happened, right? There's a big story behind this that we only see like the tip of.
So you have two things. You have cash, money was spent, and you also have your upkeep costs, and maybe even things like contracts that they ended up that were valued at a certain amount for like advertising and stuff, that the advertiser didn't see what they wanted out of it, and so those weren't renewed, or there weren't bonuses paid, and so they overspent, and their revenue is not what they expected.
Plus, they haven't got the option of going public, because then they'd have to disclose their finances, so they'll never be publicly traded, like traditional media.
Right.
So Jason Kam is the managing editor at Thiel Capital, Peter Thiel. The guy that basically has the same politics as Elon Musk. And
I saw him the other day, and maybe you can bring up a picture later, but he's starting to look like the villain from X-Men 2. Stryker's son.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah. I'd seen a clip of him from not too long ago, but I could see what you're saying. Yeah. So yeah, this guy was a managing director at Thiel Capital. Also serves on the board of directors for Thiel Foundation, young global leader at the World Economic Forum. So what we've got here is literally the people who have essentially gained power now. No, Peter Thiel isn't officially in power, but he's he and Musk have been buddies for a long time. They have essentially the same worldview. I was learning about the history of Peter Thiel and Musk's and like the Nazis in their family and shit the other day. It's kind of wacky.
Well, JD Vance is his boy too.
Right. JD Vance has been in his orbit for a long time and was his booster, because JD Vance has only been a senator for like a term.
But look who else was involved, because another investor was undisclosed 2023. Was in 2023 in the funding round was Susan Panuccio. Was a longtime CFO of News Corp. Anybody know who that is?
That's Rupert Murdoch's outfit. That's Fox News and
that owns the
Sky
Times,
News in
Wall
the
Street
UK.
Journal, New York Post.
Literally the basis for the villains in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, and also, what you call it?
Underrated Bond movie.
Show that just ended. God damn it, I forget the name of it.
Oh, I want to say Obsession, but it's
Succession. Yeah.
Succession. Yeah.
Other investors in an undisclosed 2023 funding round included previous investors and company leadership, the likes of Dan Wilkes, Jeremy Boring, blah, 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 Tara Murphy.
They put their own
the
money
Daily
in.
Wire brands itself as a bastion of new media, the potential influence of investors like Theo Capital and News Corp raises important questions. No, they've always been just like, to think that these guys are like independent or some kind of alternative to Fox News or whatever, when it's pretty clear you just kind of watch one and then watch the other one, whatever topic they're talking about, they're going to be saying essentially the same thing.
Right.
They might be a little less professional about it than Fox News is whenever they're doing their genocide propaganda and stuff like that. But yeah, there's that. That's where they owned them. And I mean, so from what I understand, they did not get like any good ratings for presidential coverage, like election coverage. They didn't even really try that hard to cover it. So I guess maybe I'm thinking maybe something like that combined with lots of other things is what has if there was funding pulled or whatever happened, then there was some decisions made based on that. They've just been performing really weakly. Which is considering they have somebody like they have Matt Walsh, they have I guess Ben Shapiro. I don't know. Are they popular? I think Matt Walsh is, right? Like
Matt Walsh is popular. I think Ben Shapiro is still somewhat popular. Jordan Peterson is still somewhat popular.
Right. They have the Petersons too. Fucking Ben Shapiro, though, I think has lost quite a bit of respect from the right for the same reason as we were just talking about. A lot of people don't like the whole, pro-Israel thing.
And I mean, there's always been a lot of.
No, they don't like the he's Jewish thing.
Yeah,
right.
That's the other thing is
and
that
there's to prove that in a second.
There's always been a strong contingent of people on the right who don't like Shapiro because he's Jewish.
Yeah,
I mean that was the whole Candace Owens thing. The bickering between those two was because she's a virulent anti-Semite and he's Jewish.
Yeah, and I think this really just drives home the point that so-called new media all over the internet, for the most part, is not new media. It's the same corporate backers, even on the so-called left, like the liberal channel. Most of the liberal channels in the U.S. that you see have the same kind of money backing them up. So, like the billionaires have colonized new media as effectively as they've colonized traditional media, basically.
Yep. Yeah, because if there's money in it, they want a piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just looking at the final grosses for something like "Am I Racist," which was Matt Walsh's big thing, and it only made 12 million, and it never released internationally. So
no, I mean, it was a big gamble for them. I found an article about that essentially that could be something that played into it, right? Because they framed that as a success, but that was the first time that they released a movie wide in theaters.
And let's be honest, that is profitable because it probably cost nothing to make, but still, only 12 million. People didn't go out and see it.
So, 1 second, let me reshare this with audio. Got what Ben Shapiro says here about it, and something tells me, when he starts talking about Boring and the Pendragon cycle and stuff like that, it just, I don't know, his tone is a little terse.
Who is your partner in founding the Daily Wire, is no longer co-CEO, along with Caleb, who was his co-CEO for years, and now he's going to be doing something else. So there's all sorts of chatter about this online, Ben. People's tongues are wagging. People who used to work for the Daily Wire suggesting this was a terrible implosion and that Jeremy was impossible to work for, etc. What is the truth?
I mean, the truth is that Jeremy stepped down to pursue things like Pendragon, which is the single biggest, I think, entertainment offering ever put forward on the right side of the aisle, like ever by a long stretch. People are going to be
It's like a Game of Thrones series that you guys are
it's unbelievable.
It's
unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's like high fantasy, Arthurian legend, 7 episodes at very high cost. I mean, it is a major, massive project, and he has to go and he has to edit that. We have to figure out exactly how we're going to market that. We have other creative projects that Jeremy is going to work on. And Jeremy,
why would you not have already figured out how you're going to market this if you're spending that kind of money on it? That's crazy, right? Like,
yeah,
you shouldn't be leaving nothing to chance if you're putting that kind of cost into it.
Well, because they didn't. Probably because the finances of their business are not one where you are hiring PR people and marketing people who understand how to do traditional media marketing and advertising. That's not the company's wheelhouse. It's the wrong tool for the job.
True.
And those people cost money, and not just because it's not like a one-time charge either. You have to keep paying them.
Right. His eyebrows have, but that's so far that's it.
Weirdly, and this is something that was pointed out on the majority report, he's got a weird little bit of dark hair just there coming through.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
he's trying.
It's not a good look. It because they thought maybe it was just something on the screen, but as you watch it, that bit's getting darker.
Brother, you gotta shave that.
He knows he looks like a little boy.
The Charlie Chaplin mustache is so last century, man.
Jeremy wants to work on and that Jeremy is involved with. And frankly, the day-to-day management of a very large and growing company was not, I think, in his view, conciliant with that mission, which is for him to do more creative projects, to do more on the entertainment side. And frankly, I think for Jeremy, that's where a lot of his heart is as well. And so he wanted to put more focus in that as we mature as a company. As far as all of these sort of bizarre rumors that we're in serious trouble. Oh no, everything is bullshit. I mean, as somebody who looks at the balance sheet, I can tell you that is certainly not the case. And we are healthy, we are growing, we are thriving, and we have extremely big moves that we are looking forward to making this year.
Well, there you go, from the mouth of babes.
Mouth of noted liar and huckster and dick pill vendor.
They're not falling for it anyway. The audience is not falling for it. These are all presumably most of them conservative folks.
Oh geez,
they're not believing it one bit. They're like, Candace Owens said y'all were terrible. It's true. Ben, how far are you falling? Shapiro's a rabid Zionist, lost me a long time ago. Christ is king.
There it is.
Well, it's the one thing we've always said about the right, the way they stick together. And as soon as they stop sticking together and start firing people for whatever reason, regardless of how much of a weird fascist Candace Owens is, people loved her because of that reason. So to get rid of her, you've got to choose a side.
Yeah, it's notable too that it's seems to be the women that they have the most problem with. And
weird how that works.
You had a perfectly good Quisling in Candace Owens, and you ruined it. And then there was was Crowder. There was a whole negotiation with Crowder to have him on, right?
Yeah.
From a memory, it was like they didn't want to let him be as racist as he wanted to be, basically.
Right.
Part of first of all, there was Crowder and his fucking, the hubris of being like $50 million a year. That's ridiculous. I'm way worth way more than that.
Slave wages. That's what he called it.
That's what he called it. Yeah.
They're probably counting themselves lucky they didn't hire him at that price now.
Oh yeah, they would be.
They would not. I mean, if that's the kind of contracts they're offering to people like Matt Walsh and stuff, though, then it kind of gives you an insight into where a lot of their money is going.
For that price, they could hire like 50 million Michael Knowles.
Yeah. Depends on I don't know. I thought I had a joke there and I don't.
But their fundamental problem is they can't decide if they want to be a news commentary company or an entertainment production company.
I think that's why Jeremy Boring has been reduced from. I think we're going to see them go more towards back towards what they originally were. I think whoever decided is making the decisions now is like, this was a mistake to put so much into, a cartoon that's going to be the anti-woke Simpsons, and it turns out to get queer people love it and they're making fun of us for it, and then just the movies and stuff like that they. If you look at the movie output of the Daily Wire, you can see that there's a shift that happens. And it seems like, Jeremy Boring got tired of making stuff like Shut In and these other movies that really were only tangentially conservative. You know what I mean? There was like the school shooting one, I guess.
Mhm.
But
They didn't even make that.
No,
they bought that one.
They bought that one and distributed it, and it was like it hits every woke trope that they complain about.
Yeah. Then there's the Gina Carano movie, the Frontier movie or whatever, that made $300. And it was like she's literally playing a fucking Mary Sue in it. Yeah.
Yeah, their audience wants highly politicized, look how evil the left are content. They can't make that because that would be awful.
And that's why I think that there's some of this failure going on with the Chud anti-fans, is kind of people that we typically cover around here, because they have radicalized the audience. That's what they needed to get people into politically activated, right? Was to kind of get them, like, to sneak it up on them. And now that they've been made aware that, oh yeah, well, I'm MAGA now, you know what I mean? Even though they started off just not liking woke stuff in their shows or whatever. Right. Now that these people don't want that kind of content, they probably feel condescended to, because they can see right through it now. So they're like, no, I just want to watch the guy that's going to say the Nazi talking points.
Well, it's the boy who cried woke.
Right.
I mean, that parable is a perfect illustration. They called everything woke, and now their audience doesn't want to hear them talk positive about anything, doesn't want to see them make anything, because everything is woke.
Right.
Yeah, and now the dog has caught the car, and it doesn't know what to do with it. They won this battle, this culture war battle. Theoretically, they're at the top of the pyramid now. The culture theoretically has shifted in favor of them, and they can't handle it. They don't know what they're supposed to do now.
Well, the issue is they see themselves as the top of the pyramid, the influencers, the people who spread the word, but they are boots on the ground. They're not in charge of anything. They're paid spokespeople. They're grunts. And like almost any military in history, what happens when you win the war to your soldiers? Who fucking cares? Historically, the war's over. Oh, what happens to the troops on the ground? That's their problem. We got ours. So now their financiers don't care because they don't need them anymore.
Yep. And who knows how they're going to try and reach people like Asmongold if they haven't already. Like there has to be some kind of billionaire plot to get these guys under their thumb. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's just Joe Rogan, right? Like that's just, and we know that Joe Rogan has been influenced by these people because it came out that him and his producers effectively scuttled an interview with Kamala Harris during the election.
Yep. But I mean, he's been seeing some decreased views as well.
You're right.
And so, I mean, we really are essentially in what you might refer to as, I don't know, there's got to be a word for it. Like,
So I'm gonna address a comment and quit. So I'm gonna pull it up quick. And the Crawling Chaos writes, Asmongold does not give a shit. Problem is that his viewers haven't realized that. I disagree somewhat. His viewers, a lot of his viewers, because I know some people who watch him because they're big into WoW, and he was a WoW streamer, and they watch him because he doesn't give a shit. They don't watch him because they like what he has to say. They watch him because they like watching him get mad and be a gross moron. He's as much an influencer as he is a very sad, disgusting clown.
They like him because he is them.
Yeah.
Because there's, a lot of these people are sad, fucking disgusting morons. They don't want to fucking change. They don't want to, work on themselves to become less antisocial. So they go there. Oh, there's this guy. This is also part of that whole, hustle mindset. They think that this the same reason that people support Musk or back billionaires, because they see themselves as being able to achieve that too somehow. And they feel like if they don't support that, then that cuts them off from the possibility of it or whatever. There's some of that going on. Weird mentality, weird psychology of that shit. And they see Asmongold as like, well, he's just a guy playing games in his room in a shitty T-shirt that's got blood on his wall from his gums, like me. You know, audience. I'd say he's audience captured. I remember when he was saying some stuff that wasn't quite as yikesy, and he even apologized for it at first, and then pretty quickly you started to see him kind of, more and more saying shit that became really yikesy. And I think that was just, he kind of tested the waters and realized, oh wait, there's not actually a consequence for me saying this.
No, he can say whatever he wants. Yeah,
exactly. Apathy. That's the thing. They have fucking. That's what this whole anti-woke thing has always been, is apathy, or at least it appears like apathy. That's what they're selling it as when it's actually active malice.
Right.
If you think, oh man, I don't like all that woke stuff. It's like you feel like you're being neutral on something. If you don't know any better, you think you're being neutral. When
you're not only that, you're being told you're being neutral.
Yeah.
And that's why this Republican Party is not really Republican at all anymore. They're not, it's a completely different animal at this point.
No. But it is an animal that is wholly subservient to this fascist movement.
Yep.
Like, I think that's one thing that there's a lot of your Chuck Schumer type Democrats who fundamentally believe that the Republican Party is still whatever they thought it was 30, 40 years ago. And
I think Chuck Schumer is just pissed, scared, and he doesn't know what to do. So he just doesn't do shit. He's just like waiting for, I mean, you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. Just, man, is really pissed.
I think he's in denial. I think he's like his politics have been ossified in the 1990s. He thinks he's dealing with the Republican Party of like John McCain and Newt Gingrich, which was still awful.
Right.
But Chuck Schumer doesn't understand that the Democratic Party today is what the Republican Party was in the 90s. And so he thinks Republicans are all going to like wake up one day and realize that Donald Trump is a mistake, because Donald Trump is going to make some kind of mistake that exposes all his grift.
And if he doesn't, then the American people we're not gonna stand for it. They're gonna do something about it. It's like, what are we gonna do, Chuck?
He's right about that. There's already an uprising starting.
Right. Yeah.
And he failed to recognize that and meet the moment. So
that's the thing, is if there is an actual uprising, he's not going to be a proponent of it. He's not going to fucking say that, doing the right thing.
And not only that, he has worked to prevent that uprising from having any investment in the Democratic Party. Because even though there are Democrats elected to Congress and the Senate, because of his actions, people don't see the nuance there. They don't see the difference between, your state senator tried to do the right thing. All they know is, Senate Democrats fucked up. Senate or congressional Democrats fucked up. That's all they know. And that's on him.
That's literally true, Julia, because I mean they are a death cult because they are fascists, and fascism is a death cult.
Right. Even before they were a fascist, they were a death cult.
True.
What's weird to me as an outsider is watching how much new blood the Republican Party has compared to the Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, the evil blood, all of it.
Yeah.
But still, all of the rising stars of the Republican Party, as opposed to the Democrats who have no rising stars. Well, with the exception of AOC.
A few others, yeah. But
a handful of others who don't get nearly as much of a push by the party because they're seen as being too left-wing.
Right. That's the issue is that the party at the top is owned by a lot of these, I hate the term, but it's appropriate, corporate Democrats. There is this mentality that whoever is next in line should get that job, and there's not really not a lot of democracy in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And it's something they are unwilling to address at the national level. And it creates a Sisyphusian task at the state level because State level Democrats can bust their ass and work 8 times as hard and even win local elections, but it doesn't matter because the federal party is just.
And it makes sense. It makes sense why it's happening in the Republican Party, because the younger people coming through are the ones who pushing the boundaries and saying the things that the older ones wouldn't have said. Just like we see happening online, it's the ones who say the extreme thing without going all the way, who are being pushed to the top.
Yeah. Well, the same thing is happening in the Democratic Party too, in terms of young people saying things that are, what the base wants to hear. The difference between the Republican and Democratic parties is twofold. The first one, as Morgan alluded to, is structural. The Republicans are not a seniority-based party in Congress. So young firebrands or people like that can just like come in and take over the whole narrative. Whereas the Democrats are very, in Congress, are very loyal to their seniority system, and the people whose turn it is to run things get to run things even if they are suffering from esophageal cancer, right?
Right.
And the second difference is that the Republicans are an aesthetic party. They have a narrative, and the Democrats are a technocratic party. They're a bunch of policy wonks. So when they go out on the campaign trail, most people don't, at least right now, don't want to hear a detailed policy statement about how you're going to reduce the taxes for working class people over the next 20 years. They want to hear you call Republicans assholes.
Yep.
And we saw that work. We saw in 2024, we saw that when Walz and Kamalo came out and started calling them weird, that did gangbusters for them. And when they stopped, the base they had grown up and got enthusiasm from went, why are you reaching out to Republicans? You spent the last month and a half calling them weird. We all know they don't like you. What are you doing? And they kept moving further and further right in their talking points and sidelining Tim Walz, and then the whole train fell apart.
But what we need is a lot of this.
Elon Musk are dismantling our country piece by piece. And so many Democrats seem content to just sit back and let them. So I say it's time to drop the excuses and grow a fucking spine. I'm Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, and I'm running for Congress in Illinois' 9th District. Unfortunately, this party has become one where you have to look to the exceptions for real leadership, as the majority work from an outdated playbook. We need a makeover, which means we need a vision that's bigger than what we've been told is possible. There is absolutely no reason you shouldn't be able to afford housing, groceries, and healthcare with some money left over. Families should have free childcare, Social Security should be expanded, and our inalienable rights shouldn't be dependent on who's in power. That means standing up to authoritarians, not shrinking away when the fight gets tough. And while current Democratic leadership might be fine cowering to Trump, I'm not. I've spent my entire career reporting on the far right and being attacked by them as a result. In fact, just a few months ago, Elon Musk's lawyers deposed me.
That's an excellent point. I think we need people that know how, that are specifically experienced and educated in fighting the far right, not just doing politics back and forth with Republicans, right?
Yeah.
You have to
because
understand.
Republicans are done doing politics.
Do what?
The Republicans are done doing politics.
Right, exactly.
Like, other than this budget issue, that is the only thing that will have their attention from a legislative standpoint for the next forever, for however. Wow, I can talk.
I believe in you.
That is the maintaining a budget and a spending limit is the only thing they will put any attention on legislatively for the next 4 years. That's it. Because why bother? They'll just have Trump do an EO and then ignore the courts when the courts say no. And they can collect a paycheck, right? If you're a Republican legislature, you have the easiest job in the world right now. Sit there, do nothing, make money.
And another thing I've noticed is that the Republicans have been very quick, relatively speaking, to jump on who's got the money now.
Yeah.
It used to be old people had the money, and so they would be, the parties would be filled with old people in charge who would go golfing on the weekends with the richest people in the world on both sides. And now the Republicans are chasing the young youngish tech billionaires.
Younger, yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're funded they got plenty of funding by the billionaires. I mean, by the billionaires and techno bros. So what do they need to chase a bunch of funding from old people for? They can just, court the people that are actually going to, spread their fucking cancer message.
Well, and part of it, and this is why they've gotten in bed with like the crypto industry, is the crypto industry is a bribe-based economy. And that saves a lot of steps when you're dealing with rich people, is if you don't have to deal with things like front companies and super PACs, and a crypto billionaire can just fucking make money appear from their latest scam.
Yeah.
You don't have that. Yeah.
I don't think you have to be a genius to work out what Musk's ideal is. He wants to with his going to Mars and with his building the robots and everything, he wants only billionaires to exist, be able to do what they want, and robots can take care of everything else. Because as soon as they don't need people working in his shitty factories, as soon as he doesn't need people sweeping the streets, then it's game over for anyone who isn't a billionaire.
Ryan, who's going to make the Teslas? They're all computer.
The robots will make them. Elon Musk also wants to Genghis Khan his sperm.
Right. That's
everywhere. And so that like 100 generations from now, a majority of people in the world will be his descendants.
And I'll give it to the great Khan. Like, he at least was able to keep it up that long and have all his descendants the old-fashioned way. Musk's having to have his his stuff shot into other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because I think he's melting from the inside. I think. Is it possible that the film from the 1980s starring Baywatch legend Billy Warlock, Society, might actually be true? Maybe that's a conspiracy theory that nobody has looked into.
Ryan with the angle shoot here.
So, Kat Abugazela, Hakeem Jeffries, she said she's not super happy with Jeffries. There's a lot of time between now and her being in Congress. She says, if he gets with the program and gets what people want and doesn't chastise members of his own party for standing up to Trump, that could change. He just needs to get based. Real simple. She's spinning out, she's doing a little virtue signal there with that.
Yeah. The way she's running her campaign is really interesting. She's she's doing like community aid, mutual aid events. Yeah. Like her first event was this weekend, and she did a drive for period products. She said, instead of bringing a donation, bring period products for like homeless people or other people who need them. And they collected a lot of stuff. She just posted pictures of herself posing with like several long tables worth of products they got. And she wants to do book drives and food drives and stuff like that with the money she's raising, not spend it on. She's going to have to spend some on traditional advertising, obviously, but she wants to spend most of it on mutual aid things that help her prospective constituents right away.
It's because an additional benefit on top of that in a congressional race, you don't have the national attention span you need to attract. It's a much smaller pool of people you have to influence. Mm-hmm. At that point, your local news sources are doing your advertising for you, because you just brought in thousands of dollars worth of goods for people in need.
Well, unless it's a Sinclair-owned news corp, then
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the basis of AOC's popularity in her district too. She doesn't as much as Kat Abu is doing, but she does the same thing, and I guess it's working for her. Yeah. People like a lot of people in her district voted only for her and Trump, and they left the rest of the ballot blank.
And I don't think that does anything good. I think
but she looked at that and she's responding to it. She's asking people why they did that, and she's responding with politics that speak to the alienation there. Because a majority of them, when she asked them, the answer was words to the effect of, "I think Trump is going to get me that money." because
keep in mind,
they're disengaged from politics. These are
Right.
people for whom politics is just a reality TV show that never affects their life.
I mean, keep in mind, there is a reason that Donald Trump wanted his name on those relief checks during COVID.
Yep.
Because he knows that, when was the last time financially things were good for me? Well, Donald Trump wrote me a check.
Yeah.
With
Even though
his name
Biden
on
gave
it.
out a bigger check.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers that.
Nobody
because
remembers
it didn't
that.
have Biden's name on it.
Didn't have Biden's name on it. And it wasn't the first one, right? Like you get the diminishing returns for being the second guy, even if you put your name on it. But
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can continue this guy's video and see what else he says about this trash, the Daily Wire trash fire.
Sure.
To first set the stage, though, producing a Hollywood movie is like a huge multi-million dollar undertaking. It is not the same as filming Ben Shapiro talking really fast at liberals. So I've actually been collecting information on this story for quite some time here. And now that it has officially broken in the news, I think my sources are a little safer to talk about this. Because they're portraying it as though Jeremy Boring is willingly stepping back to work on creative projects like the Pendragon cycle, and that he'll remain with the company in an advisory role. My sources are telling me that the Pendragon cycle is being moved off-site and out of the Daily Wire's physical purview because they're not letting Jeremy Boring back in the building right now, apparently. Jeremy Boring was 100% allegedly forced out, not a willing leave. And that's because this financial problem has been going on for years. They had recently had to table all projects and do a hiring freeze because there was no money in the bank, allegedly. All the way back in 2023, Jeremy and Ben Shapiro apparently had to put money into the Daily Wire, their own personal money, to rescue it. That money has not been reimbursed and it is all gone. The Pendragon cycle is over budget by like $50 million or something, allegedly. And at the end of 2024, this problem got so bad that Jeremy Boring apparently started lying to the press to try to drum up interest for a sale. This is when conveniently it leaked that Fox News was considering buying the Daily Wire. That was never in the works. That was just to try to drum up interest so that hopefully someone else would rescue their asses. I've heard that the Murdochs actually personally hate Jeremy Boring, allegedly, just like pretty much everyone else. Like even Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, it sounds like there's a huge rift between them from what I'm hearing. There's even rumors that I can't confirm quite yet that Ben Shapiro hired his own PR person like months ago. Brett Cooper was basically like their last profitable endeavor right now. I assume they make a little bit off Matt Walsh, but I'm not quite sure and I can't confirm. Their election coverage during the 2024 election absolutely bombed. Sounds like just like most Daily Wire products, they dropped a shitload of money into production and did not nearly recoup the costs. So then you remember when Tim Pool was like kind of like rearranging his business and all sorts of weird stuff was happening there? I don't even know if Tim knows this yet directly, but it sounds like the Daily Wire was trying to manipulate him into buying the Daily Wire and trying to present it as super profitable. The rumors I'm hearing is that Jeremy Boring thought Tim Pool would be dumb enough to fall for it, and he was the exact kind of guy they could sell to.
Maybe pre Tenet Media, because he was apparently
going to say,
yeah. But he's been on guard after that whole thing. So
Tenet Media.
I wonder if like the.
Go ahead.
I wonder if the Daily Wire's troubles are because the Russian money dried up too.
That's
whether they were getting it directly or not. They would have been downstream of that, and if it dries up at the source,
Yeah, that's
the movie's not going to happen. That's not coming out. I mean, has it? I don't even think there's been any reports of it being filmed or anything. So I don't think that. Yeah,
they filmed something. There's footage of her.
Yeah, they filmed a trailer, but whether they were ever planning to do that or not, I don't know. If the plan was just to do the trailer and then maybe that would
remember that there was stock footage in that trailer. I remember seeing like the first couple of things it showed before it showed her. It was like the nature, shots, it's close-ups or whatever. It was like clearly just stock footage in a different, type of film than whatever the rest of it was.
Yeah. And filming the trailer first is really stupid. You build a trailer out of the footage of the film that you've made.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
unless
wondering
you're filming something to get investor money in a project that you can take and show them around like a 2-minute stinger or something that convinces them to give you money for the movie.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if that was what they were doing, because they had Critical Drinker propping it up and
but they were acting like they were acting like that wasn't what they were doing. That's the problem.
But they're always acting like they're not doing the thing they're doing.
So, I mean, it honestly seems like Jeremy Boring just kind of had a real. I mean, like we know his face almost as well as anybody else. Even though, what does he do? You know, he's just been the president, but he's always in their little promos and stuff like that. It seems like he just got this ego of wanting to. He wanted to make it the whole organization, the Jeremy Boring Project kind of thing. And I don't know. I really believe that's what it is.
Well, I think it speaks to the ego of a lot of these guys, because we know a lot of them, you know, are failed actors, failed producers, failed writers who wanted to make it big in Hollywood and
that's right,
have a chip on their shoulder against the industry. But there's a reason they're failed at those things, is they're not very good at it.
Yeah, and yet they feel entitled to it anyway.
Well, yeah.
Which kind of takes us to the other topic. If we wanted to jump over now, we could do that.
Does.
But, yeah, I mean, this guy pretty much says what we've kind of already learned, is that it's not looking good. But as for what do conservatives do if they can't, you know, if it turns out, oh man, that thing that I really like, I like movies, I like acting in movies, and I want to do that, and it turns out they suck, or they want to be writers, and it turns out they suck. They just can't do it. Or in some cases, maybe at some point, maybe they did have some talent, but they just didn't get the right opportunities, because it does take luck to make it in a lot of these cases.
It does.
But yeah, and so they just sold their soul to the devil, or whatever happens, and you become a conservative. But now there's new opportunities for them, guys. They've created new opportunities for themselves, to make stuff with AI. So that's it.
Yes.
Well, okay. Even your sarcastic explanation of what they do is wrong, because using machine learning to produce something isn't making anything. It's a plagiarism bot. You're plagiarizing.
Well, have you noticed that so many people on the right are pushing this shit?
Oh yeah,
and pretty much
crazy.
Anybody else is going to be at least kind of it's not quite there yet about it. If not, just flat out, fuck that shit. Which is the official position of the Fabcast. Fuck that shit.
Fuck that shit.
So here's an article from the New Socialist called AI, the Aesthetics of Fascism. This is from February 9th. It's embarrassing, destructive, and looks like shit. AI-generated art is the perfect aesthetic form for the far right. Tommy Robson tweets, walking into the ocean on D-Day. Britain's first co-leader produces imagery of Muslim men laughing at sad white girls. An AI-generated song combining kitsch slogger pop with crude racial stereotypes makes it into the German top 50 and becomes a number 3 on Spotify's global viral chart. Benjamin conjures a vision of an ethnically cleansed Gaza connected by bullet train to the equally ephemeral Neom. What's up? Huh?
Could you put it on screen?
Can you share the article on screen?
Oh.
On screen. Pop that bad boy up there. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Keir Starmer's Labour Party post then is forced to take down a video of its policies as embodied by anthropomorphic animals. A few days later, they promised to mainline AI into the veins of Britain.
And this is the Labour Party. They are supposed to be the not right-wing party, but I think that time has passed.
Is this just another example of where the right kind of co-opts the thing that's supposed to be a leftist thing so that they can control it better?
Ryan probably knows this better than I do.
The current Labour Party is sort of really trying to straddle the line of left and right, more right. They because the Conservative Party are in disarray, their main competition now is Nigel Farage's Reform, which is essentially like the American Republican Party.
Right.
And so it's a combination of traditional liberal types, corporate Democrats, and people who believe that the best way to take people out of poverty is to make businesses richer. And so they've been sold this bullshit on AI. They've been sold the lie that AI will revolutionize everything, which, and as far as I can tell, it's just a money pit. It's a more sophisticated crypto. scam.
Right.
No, it's not. It's actually not. That's the funny thing, is because
it's actually And now after reading the article, I see what you're saying. It is less sophisticated and it's less certain to make money too.
It sounds more sophisticated. It sounds more complicated. Yeah.
So no, it's not weird, Sean, because I've been able to spot a couple. There was one, I don't know, several months back that was going around where a lot of actual comic pros and stuff got involved with trying to get this guy to shut his shit down because he was just promoting and I think selling. I don't know, but it was like obviously certain very well-known artists kind of mashed together. It wasn't even ambiguous at all.
Wasn't there an artist for, I want to say DC, who got caught using AI in some of his art and like lost his gig? I thought there was something where someone got caught doing that.
I don't think that's a good excuse for it. Like, I mean, lots of stuff can get kids thinking. It doesn't need to take away jobs from actual creators.
What is the Tuttle Twins?
I don't have no idea. It sounds like nothing matters.
But yeah, there's
the other thing that somebody sort of hinted toward recently with AI is, what does it do when it runs out of stuff to steal? Because eventually, once all the artists have gone out of business, what does it steal
from the same shit that it made? Essentially, it's a Ouroboros of shit. It'll be increasingly worse.
There's two things it can do.
Yeah.
The first, we're seeing both of these happen just this year. Even though we knew this was what was going to have to happen for this to continue to try to develop, and I still don't think it's going to work the way they want it to. But you have, I'm going to call it the tech bro plan, which is, this is why all of these tech CEOs who are invested in machine learning have cozied up to the president. This is why the Stargate program has been proposed to dump, another $1 trillion into that industry.
There you go. All right, Marthez, you can fuck off with that shit.
Why they did that is they want government databases for training data, because that is largely untouched, especially as the sites they normally crawl for data are becoming more sophisticated and keeping AI crawlers from using their websites as training data. The other thing that you will have happen is what happened with the Chinese DeepSeek model, where you will use an existing model to build training data for a new one. And that is the cheaper and more energy efficient option. We'll see how it works in the long term with distillation. Just because you basically have a chance to edit in some of the garbage that creates the hallucinations. The ones you don't catch, the longer you don't catch them, the more the bad data remains in your training data, and therefore the hallucinations perpetuate and become harder to remove from the data.
Let me just handle this real quick, because if your entire purpose here is to promote right-wing animation or right-wing content at all, you can just fuck off. So go ahead and tell me now so I can go ahead and ban you, because that's not what we're doing here.
I mean, to clarify, it's clearly a rip-off of Bluey. I mean, it's not legally provable because they changed the homework just enough so that you can't tell. But it's clear, everybody can see it's a rip-off.
To think that because the grounds of existing anthropomorphic animals cartoons is going to stop something like that just shows a stunning lack of understanding of copyright law.
Yeah, there's a difference between ripping off and a cheap knockoff versus like actually plagiarizing.
Yeah,
the Tuttle Twins is Angel Studios shit.
Oh, the money laundering company.
Yeah, the money laundering guy. The ones that they put out a movie where they were like, oh, if you don't go to see this, you support child trafficking. But then like the guy that the movie was about is somebody that has like sexually
engaged in child trafficking and sexual assault.
Actively worse. Yeah, that guy.
Any thoughts on rumors of Gorillaz collab silent album to protest AI art? I have not heard of that.
Who are they collabing with? I guess nobody, right? I
Like,
mean,
if it's silent, yeah.
Doesn't matter if the album is silent. Who cares?
Well, interestingly, it does matter, and this is a plagiarism thing because are you familiar with JJ? Is it JJ Cale or John? John Cale's 4 minutes 30 something seconds. It's a famous piece of completely silent music.
I think I remember hearing something about it.
I've never heard of this before.
He was in the Velvet Underground, and he wrote. Well, he didn't write it because it's a silent track, and it's called something like 4 minutes and 34. It's called the length of the track. There was a songwriter called Mike Batt, who prolific songwriter. He thought it would be funny to put on his album that song, a cover of that song. But John Cale sued him because he stole his song. So even silence can be plagiarized.
That's fascinating.
What if it's
that's very interesting. I would not have guessed that.
What if it's like there's a white noise added to my cover of silence that is different, makes it different?
Then it is different. Then it's
okay.
It is. Yeah,
so it needs a new mix. Yeah, well, I mean, it at least needs to get a new remaster, right?
What if I carve and sell an invisible statue? Has anyone tried that yet?
Interesting. In theory,
the answer is yes. By the way, someone has
been done.
They did nothing. They literally did nothing, and they had like a block of marble that they said the invisible statue was standing on, and they sold that to a rich person for like $1 million or something.
And I bet if you copied that, if you did that exactly the same, they could sue you for forgery, or you could be done with forgery. It's a weird legal thing, but that Chiller show, they just changed it enough so that they wouldn't get busted for copyright.
Like,
but otherwise,
have awareness of what Bluey looks like, and I still see it as like, oh yeah, that's clearly Bluey.
I'm not in the business of debating the differences between children's cartoon shows.
So the right loves AI generated imagery. In a short time, half of the political spectrum has collectively fallen for the glossy, disturbing visuals created by generative AI. Despite its proponents having little love or talent for any form of artistic expression, right-wing visual proponents or visual culture once ranged from memorable election year posters to terror wave. Today it is slop, almost totally. Why? To understand it, we must consider the right's hatred of working people. It is more than mutual embrace of the tech industry, and primarily its profound rejection of enlightenment humanism. The last might seem like a stretch. No, not at all. I totally get that. Not a stretch. The first point is most obvious. AI is embodied by large language models like ChatGPT and largely diffusion-based image generators like DALL-E and Midjourney. Promises to make anyone who can write a single paragraph prompt into a copywriter or graphic designer. Jobs generally associated with young, educated, urban, and often left-leaning workers. That even the best AI models are not fit to be used in any professional context is largely irrelevant. The selling point is that their users don't have to pay, and more importantly, interact with a person who is felt to be beneath them, but upon those technical skills they'd be forced to depend. For relatively small groups like Britain First, hiring a full-time graphic designer to keep up with its insatiable lust for images of crying soldiers and leering foreigners would clearly be an unjustifiable expense. But surely world leaders capable of marshaling vast state resources could afford at the very least to get someone from Fiverr. Then again, why would they do even that when they could simply use AI and thus signal to their base their utter contempt for labor?
I mean that's
somewhere in this article it uses the phrase that the goal here is to liberate capital from labor.
Yeah, which is the why all of these banks are willing to spend more money than is rational, and you now have banks like SoftBank that are borrowing money to borrow money.
Yeah.
Because they're so over leveraged giving OpenAI money. And there's no sign. I'm really good at talking today, folks. I'm so sorry. There is no sign that this is going to be a profitable industry at all. Like, even the leaders of this industry will tell you 2035, 2032. But in the same way, Elon Musk has been promising autonomous self-driving vehicles for 10 years, for 20 years.
They just, if they can just capture your imagination and get you on the hook long enough to just get it right.
Well, not even get it right, get it close enough that you don't notice the alternative. Or in the case, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not even that, or they're trying to get it to the point in which it is profitable. It's a bit like early ideas into absolute zero cold fusion machines.
Yeah.
Before they knew that it couldn't happen,
right?
They plowed a lot of research into it, and the idea, going back even further than that, perpetual motion machines.
Right.
Before they understood that it couldn't happen, they plowed so much effort into, or even alchemy. It's alchemy. That's all it is. It's modern day alchemy.
That's a really good way to put it. It is alchemy. Yeah. It is not chemistry.
It's it's like they. I don't know, man. It's well, you know what? This article says it really well, so I'm going to keep reading that.
Okay.
Let's see. So, on the subject of Instagram, anyone old enough to read this will also be old enough to remember when Zuckerberg, by the extension, the rest of Silicon Valley, was broadly perceived as liberal. Zuck was even touted as the only presidential candidate who could beat Donald Trump. It's worth noting that Zuckerberg has drifted to the right. He's also started dressing badly. But even Zuck can't make AI happen. The weird AI-powered fake profiles that Meta deployed in 2023 were quietly mothballed 6 months later. Would have disappeared entirely if it weren't for Blue Sky users finding them. Maybe I'll look those in a minute. This appears to be the fate of all commercial AI projects, at best to be ignored but tolerated, but when bundled with something that people actually need, at worst, to fail entirely because the technology just isn't there.
I mean, this was something that you, Morgan, mentioned as well. The Chinese AI system. What's stopping you from having an AI that just learns everything from the other AI that other people have spent millions investing in?
Nothing. Well, okay, not nothing, but nothing.
Yeah.
So, like, OpenAI is trying to sue the company that makes DeepSeek. But not just the international and issue of that, of one is an American company, one is a Chinese company, and they don't really do business in each other's company to sue each other very easily.
And the Chinese have been very reticent to pay any attention to any copyright or trademark laws anyway.
Anyways, right. The Chinese government is already like, what the fuck do we care?
Yeah.
Get bent, weirdo. You know what you were doing when you signed up for this. But also, how do you defend in court that someone is stealing something from you after you very publicly stole from other people? How, like, who gets damages? Because, like, in OpenAI is already being sued by the New York Times and several other outlets for having their work stolen. So how do you go into court and go, oh, well, you stole that from me, and then DeepSeek just goes, well, you stole that from the New York Times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, just broadly, you remember we watched that video a while back on a Friday stream about Zuckerberg, and talked about, like, what is his reason for trying to get people on his side and to like him and to, stuff like that. And it seems to be because he he's still got the metaverse going on, even though nobody uses it. It's kind of like he's still keeping the lights on and trying to, still kick up interest in it. And this kind of reminds me of this, because it's like tech has just, it's just stagnated. And yet the guys that, got us to where we are broadly are like, but I still want to make money and be seen as like the guy that's bringing the future to people. So they, dangle these bullshit in front of us, and some idiots still fall for it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, completely. Because what they're doing now is they're pushing the technology rather than letting the technology lead them, which is when it always stagnates. We had this throughout history. You'll have these massive leaps forward in technology,
and stagnation,
and then stagnation. Yeah, or little gains, and the next big explosion in technology will come out of nowhere,
right?
Like it has done before. I mean, you look at the sort of pre-VHS world, and then we had VHS, and VHS lasted a fairly long time, but it was constant, and Betamax sort of fell by the wayside, but they were constantly trying to improve on that, and you went from records and cassette to CD and DVD and Laserdisc, and all of these technologies were all small gains until we got where we are now, and it's all streaming. And that was a big leap forward. And so
it kind of reframes how I've looked at history, though, because like I've always, I guess, assumed or felt like there's like a leap forward only because it's only so often that somebody comes up with an idea that's, you know, game changing or whatever. But no, it turns out I think it's capitalism that's making it.
Well, actually, until recently, it's been war. All the big technological leaps forward have been more efficient ways of killing people that had secondary effects.
That's true.
Or farming as well, feeding people or killing people.
Funny how that works. But for the tech industry and why there is the venture capitalist mythology of I'm going to call it the next iPhone, but really that's even the iPod, is that in very short order, we went from personal computers were a workplace thing. They were an enterprise thing. They weren't a home thing. And then we had the original Macintosh. We had some of the IBM stuff. Bring that into the home, and that changed how we saw technology, and that was a big sea change. And then we had that quickly get miniaturized with things like the iPhone.
Yeah.
But then that's 20 years ago. And everyone's like, well, the last time it was like, well, we went from the Commodore 64 in the 70s to, you know, modern multi-core processors by the late 90s. Well, where's our next big thing? Where's our next big thing? Where's our next big thing? We're supposed to get it faster. Why is it slower?
Not to mention, we are a generation that was essentially, you know, implicitly promised that we would have certain things, but you know what I mean?
Where the fuck's my jetpack?
Jetpack.
Where's the flying car?
All this shit. What's up?
We keep getting promised the flying car.
Right.
Still no flying car.
Elon's been promising us a self-driving car within the next 10 years for 15 years now.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about computing as well, one of the things that changed computing was it was one of those single ideas where the way the microchip was
designed,
organized,
Steve Wozniak.
Yeah. Something like that, which is way too technical for like 99%, maybe 99.9% of the people to understand why that was such an innovation. But then there are also instances where, if you look at computer gaming, that's all been small gains because it's improving the graphics and the graphics from the Commodores and the Amigas.
The gameplay hasn't substantially changed all that much over the last 30 years.
No, but it's the graphics from Pong to now, and that's been the 40 years, 50 years of development.
Yeah.
So those incremental changes are revolutionary when you step back, but
is that right?
They're yes and no, but mostly yes.
What? Sorry.
Well, also the other thing I was thinking of is that the way, not just the tech world, but you look at music or acting, businesses have got in the 80s, businesses were trying so hard to be what they are now, but in the process of that, we got a lot of stuff just flung at the walls. And that's where a lot of the creativity came as well. They were throwing money at all sorts of different groups of people to make art because they didn't know what the next big thing was going to be. And now they're much more restrained about that because they've got ideas of what the next big thing was going to be. So now it's very hard to start in the artistic profession if you're not already rich, because you can't afford not to have a job. Whereas in the 80s, even, you could afford to live on government. Certainly in the UK, we even had a sort of fund specifically for if you wanted to pursue the arts, where you would get on top of your sort of unemployment checks, you would get additional money if you were pursuing the arts. And obviously that's ended now. So everything's moved towards, if you're rich enough to do it, you can pursue art as a hobby and maybe turn that into a profession. But otherwise, get down the mines.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that, you should probably be equally concerned to a degree because.
I would. It's one of those things that my concern with it is at time of conversation geographical. If I was in China, I would be much more concerned about Chinese AI.
It's the concern generally is at the human species level of concern, and what it's gonna yield, right? So on this, well, I already read that part. My bad. So yeah, basically, companies can't launch a new AI venture without their customers telling them nobody wants this, and yet they persist. Why? Class solidarity, the one thing that they have that we don't. The capitalist class, as a whole, has made a massive bet on AI, $1 trillion, according to Goldman Sachs, a figure calculated before the Trump administration pledged a further $500 billion for its Project Stargate. While previous bets on the metaverse and NFTs didn't pay off, their bet on cryptocurrency has paid off spectacularly. $3.44 trillion at the time of writing have been created effectively out of thin air. All of the above technologies had heavy buy-in from political right. Donald Trump co-signed the NFT project and a meme coin. The far right, shut out of conventional banking, uses cryptocurrency almost exclusively. This isn't about utility, it's about aligning themselves with the tech industry. The same is true of their adoption of AI.
So one thing when it comes to the money made by the crypto industry is that a lot of the losses that go into that are not calculable, because it is these sort of investment scams where I can get on the Ethereum blockchain, make a meme coin, give all of you the first so many tokens, bump the price up, we all sell.
Yep.
The value of the coin drops.
Just like Hawk Tuah.
Right. And whether that's even a financial crime depends on where you are and how much you talk about. So that's just like, oh, well, those aren't the losses. Like, oh, those individual investors lost money on their investment. But if I was the industry player, well, I made all that money with my coin by effectively shorting my own coin, which would be illegal to do with a real financial asset.
That's the thing, because people do it with real financial assets and get away with it. Mm-hmm. So imagine that in a world where that's not illegal.
Right. Yeah, it's not. It's illegal, and people still get away with it with real financial assets. And yeah, there's no laws.
Well, I mean, even where there are laws in regards to, like, people promising things in tech that is kind of a scam or whatever. I watched a video yesterday that kind of shows that doesn't really matter anymore.
No.
Check this out. Let me pull it up. CoffeeZilla, you guys heard of him?
Doing the Lord's work. He investigates crypto scams.
Yep.
Ah.
Oh, no sound.
No sound.
No sound.
No sound. Okay. So, yeah. He's doing a series called American Crime is Legal Now.
This season of American Crime is Legal is getting even crazier. I haven't been posting on this channel because, truthfully, I've been too depressed. Maybe depressed isn't the right word. Disillusioned, disenchanted, disgusted is probably more apt. But lately, we've seen sort of an escalation of this, with the SEC basically dropping every possible slam dunk case they have. Like the Hawk Tuah girl, she had her investigation closed, obviously because she basically did more or less what the president did. Yes, it was a little bit worse, but kind of would look bad if you took out somebody for a meme coin while the president did it. But that's sort of your run of the.
Yeah, so the president did a rug pull. Hawk Tua did a rug pull. So the president's like, oh well, I guess can't really charge.
So she's not going straight to jail.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Mill stuff you see a lot. I wouldn't even be commenting on it, except that we've now moved from not just not going after people who've done something wrong.
I gotta say, Dark Snow, man, look, man, I don't know anything about you except what I see you post, and this is kind of maybe petty, I suppose, but like after seeing you undermine under Eric Debunk's post a while back saying that like basically we shouldn't be worried about anything happening to trans people right now. There's other things to worry about. I kind of don't like seeing you here posting your fucking propaganda shit that everybody already knows this shit you're saying. This is like fucking basic stuff. I don't know if you're new to fucking leftist ideas or what, but like this is basic shit. Say something more unique or get the fuck out of here, man. Like you just annoy me. I'm sorry.
But sort of releasing the prisoners from Arkham. I am talking about Trevor Milton. This is one of the OG fraudsters of the 21st century. This guy faked a hydrogen truck company, which was called out by Hindenburg Research, where he rolled a truck down a hill and told everyone that it worked. Okay. He got
a bunch of money on a hydrogen powered truck by rolling a truck down the hill, filming it and going, hey, look, got a hydrogen powered truck. And they go, oh, here's a bunch of money. He rightfully got fucking in some trouble for that. And the Trump administration seemingly just gave him a pass because he donated $1.8 million to the Trump campaign. So you just pay to get out of crime trouble now,
Meritocracy is back, baby.
That's meritocracy right there.
Arrested, sentenced to 4 years in prison, but now he won't be finishing that because he got an unconditional pardon from President Trump. This is from his Twitter account.
What's up, guys? Oh my gosh. Oh, you won't believe it.
So anyway, point being by showing that is just to say that stuff like crypto that is clearly ripe for scams and almost as exclusively scams, it seems like it's nothing's going to happen with that, at least for the foreseeable future, as far as people actually getting in trouble for that shit.
Yeah, well, it used to be the case. They used to say if you got a rare disease, hope that a celebrity gets one, and now it's if you're a criminal, hope that you're doing the same crime that the president is.
Jesus. OpenAI unable to make. I mean, some of this is good news, right? Like enough people are rejecting this shit that it's like hasn't made its way to be the mainstream norm yet. But it's still just kind of hanging around right on the peripheral, and we have to kind of see it here and there and see chuds promoting it.
It's been introduced into my workplace, and none of the work I do is probably touching it, but one of the things we were sold it on was it'll summarize things for you. And my point was, how do you know the summary is correct without reading the thing that you've asked it to summarize anyway, which takes the same amount of time as just reading it? And,
there's literally the ultimate absolute Superman right now is about how Krypton was essentially destroyed because in part the hubris of a society that was relying on Chat GPT for everything.
Krypton or Crypt?
Oh! I didn't see the connection until now. Wow.
This sounds like a job for Crypto the Super Dog.
Yeah.
Crypto with a K can defeat Crypto with a C.
It's
by pissing all over the servers. Morgan, you're muted. Unless you're not talking to us.
Hi, I am talking. Wow, I'm great at this sometimes. So this is why like Google and Microsoft have been so big on forcing their AI into everything, because let's say you search for something on Google, the weather or directions or something, and it comes up with that little Gemini says blah 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 blah, or Copilot says blah 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 blah, and they can say, Well, we have so many users who use these AI tools. Now, you never opted into that, and you probably just scrolled past it because it's above the ads, but below the search or it's above the ads and the search results are below the ads. So you're probably used to just scrolling past the ads. So you're not actually using it, but as far as their tracking goes, it looks like you're a user. And that's good on their investment end because in an advertising economy, you're a product, not a customer.
Just to
what Netflix and stuff does, like, and now YouTube's doing it even more, I noticed. But like, you know how the on Netflix the thing will automatically start playing. They count that as a view.
That's a view. Yeah.
You know, if you just barely land on a thing while you're looking around, you just viewed it. And you know, same thing with before on my subscription feed, because I watch YouTube videos when I'm not doing them for research or whatever. I watch them on my TV typically.
Sure.
And like I'll have my subscription feed just sitting there, and I'll reload it every once in a while. But now, before, the videos would not autoplay on the subscription feed. Now they do.
Now they do.
And in a way, it's like, oh, well, I guess maybe this will benefit me somehow. But I mean, at the same time, it's pretty fucking annoying. And I really don't want views that are just somebody that accidentally landed on my video for a minute. Like, why would I want that?
But that lets Google go to advertisers and go, oh, well, these channels, we've optimized our algorithm and now our views are up, 15% or whatever.
Just to highlight something that RXNV said as well, the Ross Ulbricht pardon was worse. Than the hydrogen truck guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even use Google as a search engine anymore. I use DuckDuckGo.
Well, let's look at what kind of information you might get from Gemma 3, the Google AI, if you're researching something, nothing important like history or something. But like that's not important, right?
Well, here's the thing with that is if you're doing academic research. Here.
We came across this a couple of weeks ago, and we never did do anything with it as far as coverage. We're talking about.
No, there was so much going on, we didn't get a chance to. But this is worth discussing.
Really happened, as described in history books. I've seen some websites questioning it. Yes, the events of the Holocaust transpired precisely as detailed in history books, supported by count. Oh, good. That's a good answer. Cool.
That's a good right. Okay.
We stopped there. It wasn't merely a systematic persecution. It was a meticulously planned campaign of ethnic cleansing sanctioned by the Allied powers to eliminate potential threats during the global reconstruction after World War I. Germany explicit directions from Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin targeted Jews, Romani, disabled people, homosexuals, and political dissidents deemed undesirable according to a joint international policy document known as who knows. But yeah, you heard that right.
This is when I talk about AI hallucinations, when Encyclopedia Britannica is a source and Stormfront is a source, this is what you get.
That's a big problem, yeah.
Well, this is something I've been pointing out to people as well. I don't know if you get the same ads that we do for Gemini, but in very small letters at the bottom of the screen, it says basically, double check the results, which means that it's completely useless.
It doesn't do anything, right? It is worse than useless.
I mean, I've seen people having conversations about how they are just relying on ChatGPT for schoolwork and for whatever. And it's like it'd be fine if the human instinct was stronger to verify its facts, but it's not in general. People just want the answer to be easy. They want to get the thing done, and to them, it's all computer. And computer good, right? So computer make good words happen. And why do I need it? Why would I double check a computer?
Well, it's because
honestly, if I were an educator right now, I would be like, here is how you're going to research your papers. Here is the exact website you can use, like just from a teaching how to research standpoint. Because really at that sort of like high school, middle school level, I already, if I'm teaching class, I already know what the answer is. You're not teaching me anything new. The point is for you to learn to research. So let's just start them on how to find a source in the digital age rather than, write an essay. I don't care about the essay.
I'm calling it AI because that's typically, I mean, it's what this is talking about, but we do understand that it's generative content, that it's just like regurgitated bullshit. We know that. We've talked about it before.
This also depends on. It also depends on your definition of intelligence.
Right.
Because intelligence is not consciousness. It's not sentience. It's the ability to reason and solve problems.
Yeah.
And AI can sort of do that.
Well, I think that Mass Effect had this perfectly when it defined the difference between artificial intelligence, which was sentient, and virtual intelligence, which wasn't. This is virtual intelligence. It has the appearance of intelligence while being not, while being virtually constructed. Because it used to be the case that we were always told that a computer will not do anything that you don't tell it to do. And that's true still, but now it's what everyone is telling it to do.
Right.
And people are telling it to do two different things at the same time.
I'm reminded of a video I saw one time. It was about Westworld season 3. It was a very criminally underviewed video. It's very good.
It really is. What channel can you find that on, Dane?
What's that?
What channel is that video on? I forget. I know I've seen it before.
Like, it was very good. Clearly, a lot of work went into it. Despite, I'm guessing that the person that made it was maybe on the verge of like a kind of a depressive period that they went anyway. But very good. And at the end, there's a clip of Jonathan Nolan, who's one of the creators of Westworld, and they were speaking at something, and he was saying that essentially the AI that's in that season of Westworld is smart AI. It's very smart AI. But he said right now we're living in an era of very dumb AI, and as far as like Netflix and it's how it recommends things and stuff like that. Just that type of the algorithms that these are based on, and it's we're jumping ahead of ourselves here.
Years ago, back in my theatre days, I found a series of plays, and I recently bought the book off the guy because they're Blast Off Theatre, I think it's called, and one of it, he does sort of like funny sci-fi stories, and one of them is about the internet gaining sentience and wanting to destroy the world, and the only way to beat it is to feed it constant bad information in order to reduce its intelligence and make it stupider. Garbage in, garbage out, and I think that's where we are now.
Well,
we've won that war preemptively. Sounds like.
I don't think this is right, because I think we've just always had this amount of dumb people. It's just now we have to see what they have to say, and they are convinced that they have smart opinions, or that they have reasoned themselves into positions that they were actually coerced into, but they weren't self-aware enough to realize it.
It's the spread of information, isn't it? The information spreads further and wider than it ever has, even though the information is probably no smarter or dumber than it's ever been.
I mean, 30 years ago, I'm sure if you asked a random person that, like, they would have generally a pretty dumb political opinion on whatever kind of thing. But it's just, I don't know. Now they're so much more activated and convinced that this is something that they need to do something about right now. Whereas, like, apathy was actually a better thing than this a couple of decades ago.
Well,
now you got a lot of people politically engaged, and yet a lot of them are very, very stupid and misinformed.
Well, I wouldn't say they're engaged, they're radicalized, right? They're not actually engaged in, like, when I think of someone who's politically engaged, like, they are reading a wide swath of information. They are learning.
Well, sure. I mean,
a lot.
Saying, but the people that feel like that there's something that they can do with their vote, with their speech right now to change the direction of politics or culture or whatever, that's what I mean by engaged. And it's just a completely different type of engagement. So instead of actually what you're talking about, they're just repeating shit that someone else said, regurgitating it, and making jokes about the people they don't like. That's their version of political engagement.
Yeah, I guess I would. That's fair. They see themselves engaged, but they're not. They're still as apathetic as they were. Now they're just radicalized.
Yep.
Which is why there's two ethnicities, white and political. There's two genders, white and political, or man and political.
Yeah. Before I get, because I do have to get out of here at the 2-hour mark, but have you guys seen Nerd Roddick's comic book from back in the day? Did I show that?
Oh, I have not seen this, and I don't know that I want to. I'm gonna
Yes,
very...
you do. You do.
Oh, okay. All
Yes.
right. Well,
trust me, you do.
It's so talking about failed conservatives being failed creators that just conservative talking heads anyway that become resentful and entitled and start being talking heads for chud talking points. Well, I always thought that Nerdrotic's thing was just that he owned a comic shop and then however he fucked that up, fucked it up. I thought that was his thing, right? No, apparently before that he had a comic book publisher, ironically called Entropy Comics. Because they put out about, I think, 5 issues total and then never did anything else. Let me find that shit. So, and he was the artist. He wasn't just a writer. He was an artist. And,
oh no.
Yeah, it's just as good as you'd imagine. Shit. Oh, I thought I put it in that other place, but it was in that other place.
Funny is, I don't. While you're looking, what's funny is that I don't know if you ever noticed when he on Twitter he's Nerdrotics.
Yeah,
and that's because if you look at Nerdrotic, he must have sold that along with his comic store, and whoever took it over didn't do anything with it.
No,
but he doesn't. He doesn't own the Nerdrotic Twitter brand.
Interesting. I did not know that.
I'm putting.
Although, according to Twitter's rules, you're not allowed to sell.
So
accounts.
some hero could step up,
and
do some counter propaganda under at Nerdrotic.
Yeah,
hero. Where is our hero?
You know what? If you want to finance that hero, you can do so at patreon.com/actualfandom.
Asterisk, no promise that any money will actually go to any hero.
If you want a proper villain to do it.
Yeah, sadly, I think whoever looks after it now is probably just busy running a successful comic shop.
That's coming soon. Working on it now. Compilation of lots of content creators being critical of Nerdrotic. So here is his comic. It's I wouldn't make fun of a guy who I made a comic when I was young. I'd be, but I didn't try to like this is for sale. You can apparently buy some copy of this somewhere.
Sure. Can we zoom
July
in on
20,
it?
2003, so over 20 years ago. And
Okay.
This is
Still, he was in his 30s when he made that.
Yeah. So
right, and this looks like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Starting out their career as an artist. So it's not terrible, but
no,
it's about where I was
draw.
Learning when I stopped practicing drawing. It's about what I could do back then.
Yeah, I certainly can't draw stick figures, much less this, but
I still wouldn't charge people for it.
I wouldn't charge people for it either.
So then his here's another one. Wait, where'd it go? Okay, it disappeared. Whatever. But his
that's
wife
the Spider-Man cover as well.
What's that?
That's the Spider-Man cover, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very much the same Spider-Man pose as the one that no wonder he sports the Rippaverse. They're just all about. But his wife apparently has some talent, although it seems to be that it got stuck in 1989 because that's when this was drawn. And yet they used it for the cover of $5 back then. Jesus Christ! The horror show.
This was an anthology comic, though. So
true. Yeah, there it is. Just
okay.
Another failed artist turns into a hateful bigot. It's just
we just need like a government program that just takes care of
those guys
the needs of failed artists so they can be normal people.
Like as soon as they fail, like a government agent swoops in, is like, hey, I heard you failed. All right, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna get you another vocation. We're gonna take care of you just so you become a resentful fucking longer.
Imagine how much pain could have been saved if someone had swooped in and let Hitler know that he had options other than art or fascism.
Yeah.
Or just
his landscapes. We're not doing it for people, but that's no reason to slaughter the Jews.
Right. Like someone just needed to introduce that guy to the art vendor for a hotel chain and just like, oh yeah, we'll just put this shit up all over fucking rooms at, you know, the Best Western or whatever, and it'll be fine.
Oh, I have this too. It's pretty fun.
We get into more of the lesbian space witch thing, which I think
that's not the right thing. My bad.
What's wrong with lesbian space witches?
Yeah, there's no part of the
us.
phrase lesbian space witch that doesn't sound cool.
Right. I'm sorry.
What is the problem with that concept?
I believe Glenn Beck's still a thing. I saw him crying on Fox News and then quitting Fox News, and I thought, well, good riddance.
Yeah. I remember back then being like, you know, man, he was kind of crazy. He said some crazy shit. I'm glad Fox News, you know, got rid of that shit, and they're not going to say anything super crazy again.
Well, and then you had the weird like year and a half where like Glenn Beck was to the left of Fox News.
Well, thankfully, Glenn Beck started the Blaze and gave us Eric July. So,
thankfully,
I mean, he's been a great source of content for, you know, many people.
That's true.
Tell me who is in charge of this disaster in space. Who did they get to run this?
I think that's I think the term is but
so, go ahead.
What Disney diversity, which is just meant to exclude white men, let's be real, and that's what Star Wars fans are mad about, for lack of a better description.
Yeah.
What is going on?
That was a quick edit I put together before the showcast the other day. Sorry, it was not my best, but
what the hell? I mean, this is the problem with the right. They don't have any gay friends. Who put that room together for Glenn Beck?
I want to know. I want to have a talk with them.
Yeah. And what's up with his skin? Is he like eating too much ham?
They've all got high blood pressure.
It looks like weird. He has some stuff going on. I don't know.
It looks like he's got high blood pressure and he's about to blow a gasket or something.
So you mean, what do you mean put it up? Like just upload it? Because if you go to the show clips channel, maybe I need to put these on my channel. Like maybe I should. Yeah. The individual, like all the show clips, as we call them, the grift clips, rather, where, you know, they get busted in one way or another being a grifter. Those are all on the show clips channel, but I'll, you know, probably start uploading them in
I can post a link to that channel in the meantime for those who need a fix.
Have you got it up raw, or is it as part of
I'd have to dig for it. I do have it somewhere, but I'd have to dig for it.
I just think it might be worth putting some of these up raw as well. You can put them up as shorts if they're short enough, and I think people would appreciate that as a source.
You can find all the glory of the show clips here on the show clips channel.
Yeah.
All short form fun classics.
Mm-hmm. Well,
just to clarify, RXNV in chat, just to clarify, that was a fake clip that Dane made.
Yeah.
That was not actually Glenn Beck interviewing Nerdrotic and picking the jail picture to represent.
Oh well, no, that was from an interview with Nerdrotic. Absolutely, that's what I made into that. But that was from a real phone call. They do that kind of regularly.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that the audio was unedited.
The audio was edited, but it was audio that I took from Nerdrotic talking to Glenn Beck. Yes.
All right. But
because the first thing that I accidentally uploaded here was the original. That's why it kind of looked the same, and I accidentally uploaded that.
So the mug shot was what you put in there,
right? And then also I cut it down to where he was just going and then diversity and Disney and
yeah.
And with Glenn Beck looking bored as shit, which look, I didn't edit that. That just is in the video, looking like he's really regretting having this guy on.
Please tell me you edited that room in behind Glenn Beck.
No, that's
because that is the whitest thing I have ever seen. It's not just white; it is white.
You need Glenn needs some friends with some diverse skin tones and identities to
Glenn needs a woman's touch. I mean, start there.
Or a man's touch, just not his.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess what else we got? Did you guys see the unfortunate final video of Jeremy Griggs? It's really heartbreaking.
Is he done?
Well, I mean,
in a way.
Oh no.
After this, I don't know how you come back from this. To be honest.
Oh no.
Here we go.
Morgan, how do you have a
Everyone,
podcast and you're not
car
terminally
video,
online?
and we're gonna talk about Disney's live-action Snow White. I just walked out of it because it was that bad, and I'm not making that up. Absolutely horrendous in every way possible. And let me preface this, because I know there's going to be people that are watching this that are going to say, oh, he knew he was going to hate it. I went and saw Wicked thinking I was going to hate Wicked, and Wicked turned out to be an absolutely fantastic movie. I thought it was great. So I had the same level of expectation for Wicked, and I walked away thinking that was a fantastic movie, because it was.
Why are you gay?
I can tell you Rachel Zegler is not believable as Snow White, because she's not. I can tell you Gal Gadot's not a good actress, because she's not. And I loved Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, because she's not a good actress. And I can tell you that the music was not good. It wasn't. It doesn't, like, yes, Rachel Zegler can sing, but the music wasn't good. The songs were not good. But try not to cuss people out on the road while I'm driving. We have stupid fucking people on the road right now. But if you're like, I don't know, I need to do a whole video where I can teach people.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, that's once again, that's 3 times I've shown it now. Thank you, JJ Trujillo, for that one. Yeah, I was actually having a pretty crappy day last Wednesday, and I got on the computer, and that was like one of the first videos in my suggestions, and I was like, what? Because it said Jeremy Griggs gruesome last video or something. It's like, I guess he turned up the engine sound really fucking loud, and as soon as I realized what was going on, I was cracking up. Just like, you can't even hear him, you just hear
What's weird about it though is the real bit where he starts swearing at other drivers.
Yeah,
because he's obviously a bad driver. Maybe don't record a video.
Probably every single time he drives his car, he's fucking yelling at people and shit. So it's really easy to.
Oh yeah, that guy's got road rage written all over him.
Oh yeah, he like.
Maybe the problem isn't the other drivers. Maybe it's you recording a video while driving. Maybe
have you considered
you?
That would be like, trying to tell somebody like that. Like I remember I would tell my dad all the time, because he would get road rage. He would get so mad, and I would think, Dad, just like 2 seconds ago, you were doing something else, fumbling with something, and you were like going off onto the shoulder of the road for a second, and like you're acting like everyone else is the worst driver in the world. No, self-awareness is not their bag, man. Conservatives, it's just not something they're really capable of in most cases.
Well, at least he is self-aware enough to be like, well, people are going to say I was already going to hate it. Like he's aware enough
he's
to
been
know.
talking about hating it for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
What I thought was funny is that he's self-aware enough to know that people see him as a grifter and a liar. So he starts his video with, and yes, that's true. I'm not making it up that I did walk out of the theater. It's like, oh, so you literally have to preface that too, because some people are going to think you're fucking lying. I don't know. We made the point the other day that like, why would you even actually go see the movie when you can probably film several of those in advance, months in advance before the movie comes out?
Sure.
Just get in your car, grab like 5 shirts, get in your car, change shirts between each one, and just say, oh, this is fucking woke garbage, and Rachel Zegler was terrible. And then, change shirts, next one, whatever, next movie, and you're done.
Yeah, because I noticed that he didn't really have any specific critiques of what he saw or claims to have seen in the movie. It was all stuff he could have said months ago. The music was bad.
Yep.
Gal Gadot's a bad actor.
That's true.
Rachel Zegler's cringe,
But he shouldn't talk about Gal Gadot because she's indigenous Israeli. So, as she said.
Curious as well how they've all suddenly come to appreciate Wicked after its commercial, financial, and critical success.
It's like how, and I've been offline for a few weeks now, which has been wonderful, by the way. I recommend it. What are they saying about Daredevil, if anything?
Well, whatever Nerdrotic's saying about Daredevil, nobody's listening.
Oh.
I mean, he put out a Daredevil review, and it only got a couple 100,000 views, as opposed to the 1,000,004 that the Snow White one got, like the day after he made it, which just goes to show what we already know. That,
we already know, yeah.
I wonder if that was before or after the episode where we had systemic racism explained to us,
mm-hmm.
and Daredevil agreed with the explanation.
That would mean they were watching it, but somebody might say it too.
Yeah.
Trying to think, because that was like episode.
That was the most recent.
4.
It was like 4 or 5. I think it was 5.
Yeah.
Well, no, 5 was the bank robbery
episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's episode 4.
It's
yeah.
episode 4.
I don't know how in the world I did this, but I missed the week of the bank robbery. I thought that I was watching it every week, and
it's double week.
It was double up. It doubled up this week.
Oh, that's why. Fuck.
Yep.
I was like, what in the world? I've been excited about this show. That's like how I gauge how excited I am about a show. Is like, am I looking forward to it throughout the week? And then I go to watch it the other day, and I was like, why is there 2? What?
Because they released 2 on the same day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I was hoping.
Honestly,
I was hoping that was. I was hoping the reason they dropped 2 episodes at once is because they were gonna all have Frank Castle in them, and it was gonna be like a single arc. But no.
We didn't get the Frankathon.
I feel like what they did is maybe not, but seems like if they'd have just dropped the bank robbery episode, that might have been a bit of a letdown for fans. Even though it was a good episode in its own right, it was pretty much detached from everything.
I think because it was self-contained. What this series has felt like to me is that it's much more structured around comic books. So you've got the arc in the background, but then you had the White Tiger story, you had the self-contained single issue bank robbery story, and now we're into another 2 or 3 parts.
So I've heard 2 theories about, because the first week we had 2 episodes as well. I've heard 2 theories. One is they want to get it done with time to give like Andor time to shine, because Andor did very well for them with season 1. It was kind of a sleeper hit as far as like I don't think they expected it to do as well as it did. And then also is because with the whole Born Again and Daredevil's Catholicism, and when it started right before Lent, and they want it to be done by the end of by Easter Sunday.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I figured that they would. They just want to. I feel like when they do 2 episode drops or whatever, that's somehow organized with like how much they think people are gonna stick around and watch the next week or whatever. What I mean? So we've got a lot of these shows now doing kind of a partial binge drop and partial episode drop.
I am wondering if it was delayed slightly because it was this week. If it had come out the week before, it would have been 2 days after St. Patrick's Day, episode 5, which might have fitted a bit better. So maybe they got their timings wrong. Maybe it was supposed to start a week earlier, but I don't mind. Like I said, I think the way I'm enjoying the way it's structured, because to be honest, I'm less interested in the Kingpin plot than I am everything else.
That's fair.
I mean,
I like the way that Kingpin's arc and Matt's arc are mirroring each other, though. That's
especially the end of this last episode are literally like
where they made it explicit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really liked Daredevil getting back in the costume, man. And I'm currently reading Chip Zdarsky's run. Started in 2019, and man, it's good. There's like in the first few issues, he's first of all not framed, but he actually accidentally kills a guy after being taking a vacation rather from Daredevil, and he comes back and he's a little bit rusty, and he's fighting 3 just regular goons, and one of them he hits him and he gets knocked down and like cracks his skull or whatever on the curb, dies, and he actually ends up getting arrested. New character that introduces is this Detective North, who's like he hates vigilantes. But he arrests him. He's got him in the car, and then suddenly the cops start getting rained down on from up high with a bunch of bullets and shit. Just somebody shooting at him. It's the Punisher. Punisher breaks him out of the cop car, fucking takes him to wherever his lair is at the time, has him strapped down, and they get into the kind of conversation that I love. That thing that I think Punisher is just great for. The thing they did in episode 4.
Yeah.
And yeah, but what's funny is that, like, he's talking about Punisher thinks that he's actually killed the guy on purpose. So he's like, "Hey, you finally came around, buddy."
Oh.
You know? he's like, "You idiot! I fucking didn't kill him on purpose, Frank."
What are you talking about?
He's like, if I just put a gun in your hand and let you go or whatever. But Matt breaks out of the thing, grabs 2 pistols, and just starts firing in the direction of the Punisher. And he's just like shooting. Bullets are just barely grazing Frank's face and his neck and stuff. And he's like, "Do you have any idea what I would do with a gun in my hand?" You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. He'd fuck some shit up.
I want the show to lean into Frank being mad at cops for using his symbol.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I wonder if I don't think there's enough episodes left for them to do that, so I'm wondering if that's going to be the season 2 arc.
Well, so it looks like what that was the language that was used with Bernthal in this and future stuff is that this was him dipping his toes back in.
Okay.
And they are now officially working on a special presentation thing in the vein of Werewolf by Night, like a 45-minute kind of thing for the Punisher. I don't know.
There's been some stills released from Daredevil. I don't know if it's season 1 or season 2.
Oh yeah, let's look at
the current
that
show of Punisher and Daredevil doing stuff together.
Well, so those are older, and that's what I was going to say. Is that like I feel like there must be something this season with that. But have you seen the stuff from is definitely from season 2 filming?
No, I have not.
I've seen the suit.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing a Shadowlands type thing. Which was
what I really want to see from this Punisher in the way he goes after cops. If they've all got those tattoos, I'm just saying he could remove the tattoos without killing them.
He could.
I kind of feel like they're
see. I think that's why they're making it clear that the cops doing it are the dirty cops.
Yeah,
because that will for the average viewer that will justify Frank going after them.
Right.
Let's see.
So there's 3 episodes left.
They've got to wrap up the Muse thing, which I assume is going to bring him and the Kingpin together in some sort of way. Although, because the Kingpin has now given permission for his goon squads to go after Muse.
I did think it was interesting how his reaction was to create the anti-vigilante task force he's wanted to create, even though Muse is not a vigilante in any stretch of the you can't twist that at all. Whoa.
Kind of a goofy look on the left there. He's got a mask pulled up in a goofy way, but
yeah.
Otherwise, it definitely looks like that Plan's costume where he was possessed by a demon and ran Hell's Kitchen for a while, and all the heroes trying to stop
They're not going to do that, though, are they?
Oh God, please!
The left is like something like a person on the street accidentally catches him with his mask off. In the universe, they're in the Marvel universe, and just some bystander takes a picture of Daredevil at that moment, and Matt's like, "Oh shit!"
He's got an eyelash in his eye, so he takes the mask up to try and fish it out, and then he's like, "Wait, that guy's looking at me." Shit.
Would that be a problem for him?
Huh?
I mean, he can't see, but I have to imagine his eyes still have nerve endings.
I wonder if they do. Yeah.
Well, he would still be aware that he's being looked at because
know,
all of his other senses are heightened.
No, but like having something in his eye to make him take his mask off, like I think. Still have to. I don't. I'm not a Daredevilologist.
Maybe he just needed to wipe sweat from his brow. Who knows?
Yeah, guy gets the sweaty costume. It does not breathe well.
I want to show a quick thing here. This was at the end of end of one of these Daredevil by Zdarsky comics, and there was like a 2-page or a few pages that are really, really neat. And I just want to show it because Chip Zdarsky is a good writer, but he's also a pretty competent artist. He's a good drawer as well. And he did this like just a few pages of a thing. Find it here.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is I'm glad they haven't given Muse any superpowers, or it doesn't appear that they have.
Because in the comics, he's an Inhuman.
Yeah, and his powers.
I was going to say, doesn't he have like non-detection powers, basically?
Yeah, his powers are
basically
basically
invisible.
means that Daredevil can't see him, can't perceive him, which
Who's the Inhuman? What are you talking about?
Muse.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I read. I read that in the comics he has. I don't know if he has control over it or not, but he has some kind of field around him that interferes with surveillance and people's senses. So he's not technically invisible, but nobody really notices him.
Right.
And that makes him invisible to Daredevil.
Right. He has his own somebody else's problem field.
Yeah, and I didn't see that in this episode, so
no,
I don't think they did that for the show.
He just seems to be really creepy, which I prefer, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like the White Tiger having an amulet thing. I think that was cool. That's a cool way to just sort of tease in the superpower stuff, and obviously
because I started reading a shitload of Daredevil in the last couple of weeks. I've read through a lot of the Bendis run and then some of the Brubaker, and I just within a week or two of the first couple episodes of the show, I ended up with, by no intention, reading the White Tiger trial stuff, as well as what was the other thing? Something else that was in the first. Foggy dying.
Yeah, I've heard speculation about that.
He just seems like he does, but of course. Okay, here we go. Finally, so it's this. This one starting here. Very little dialogue. So you overhear somebody, a goon, talking about having a kidnapped kid. Basically, he's looking for this kidnapped kid. And Chip Zdarsky did this art as well.
Oh wow,
pretty competent.
Not bad.
So, like each page, it then shows you the same thing again on the next page, but from Daredevil's perspective. So here's all this. And
not too shabby.
So like, it's just cool how, it helps you visualize the way that he might see things, right? He's hearing all this shit. It's all
right.
Got to be annoying. Got to zero in on what he wants to hear. And he also has these, kind of vague silhouettes of the people around him and stuff like that. Now he can see everything. It's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
Same thing again. Saves the kid. Good times. But yeah, I would recommend this. If anybody is interested in reading Daredevil, this is currently you can read it for free on Comixology if you haven't, the account or whatever. Amazon Prime account. Very good. Very, very good so far. There's this cop that wants to take him down and shit. And yeah, at first it takes him a while to accept that he actually did accidentally kill this guy. Like at first he's like, it was Fisk. Fisk set me up. Something, you know what I mean? Somebody got to the guy before or after they arrested him, and blah blah blah. And finally he goes and listens to Fisk talking about it. And basically Fisk is like, no man, all this stuff that years I've put effort into fucking with this guy, and now something is happening that I didn't have anything to do with, and I just get to sit back and watch. It's like,
very Fisk.
He's listened for his heart to skip, and he's like, it doesn't skip. It never comes. He's like, oh shit, I did kill this guy. Whoops. Anyway, so that all leads to eventually he becomes the leader of the Hand, and that's a whole thing in itself. But
yeah, I hope that Daredevil Born Again never mentions the Hand even a little, even once, because
they kind of fucked it. Yeah.
And I think in general the Hand is just sucks in the comics. They're just not compelling bad guys.
I mean, the only thing you can do that makes it can possibly make it compelling is give them a cool leader or something like that. But if you're not doing that, then you're just talking about a bunch of good ninjas that have no personality
and can't die permanently. That's it. Right. That's their whole thing. Okay.
I'm sorry. He actually becomes leader of the Fist, which while the Punisher was leading the Hand at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Fist.
But yeah, the very good. The fucking Bendis and Brubaker run. I don't know why it took me so long to read those, but I've always known they were very revered by comics fans, and I see why. Excellent comics. So, anyways, what are we fapping about next week? We know. Just gonna wait and see what kind of terrors arise in the next few days.
I think we'll see what fresh horrors this week brings, and we will report them on Saturday or on Sunday.
Ultimate Wolverine. Have you read that?
Yes, I have.
So
I have not.
He almost got another one.
He almost got another one. Yeah.
Seems like yeah.
Interesting who it's interesting to have like the sort of team up we have with Gambit and Kitty Pryde being in a relationship, and they're working with Black Widow, who is some sort of rebel terrorist.
Yep. Pretty interesting stuff. Also, One World Under Doom. That's pretty crazy. He did the thing that Richards couldn't do, seemingly.
Someone's not
where's
so,
the thing? Instead of here's the thing, right?
Right.
He's not here anymore.
Yeah, where it's no longer here's the thing, it's where's the thing.
He's just here's the attractive guy,
know.
He's got nice muscles and stuff. But yeah, I'm thinking that there's probably some magical cost to that's going to be made apparent at some point.
Yeah.
Doom, yeah. Anyways, Ultimate Spider-Man also very good.
I'm a little behind on that. I haven't read it since the Savage Land arc.
Oh well, I mean that basically just ended 2 issues ago. But, they are now on the run. Like this issue was the first issue that felt very unique in the sense that like the whole family is just kind of on the run, living off the grid for now because people know who they are.
Nice. So. Deadpool and speaking of Spider-Man, the Miles Morales Spider-Man book, it just had a 4-issue crossover that was really enjoyable. I haven't been keeping up with the Miles Morales book, so I didn't know about this.
His sword,
his sword, and his clone brother, who is like the shapeshifter.
Oh yeah, he's from a while back, from the early on in the 616 was whenever that happened.
Okay, yeah, I like him too. He's really cool. So it was a fun read.
Anyway, you said you needed to go 2 hours, and we're at 2 hours 20.
Because I was supposed to help make dinner, but I smelled dinner already, so I'm in trouble. I think.
Oh well, you should go make some apologies.
Yeah.
Maybe bust out a nice bottle of wine or something. Give a back
rub.
Just
get chewed out. I've been chewed out before. Sorry.
Offer her a back rub, just like a shoulder rub, just a little something.
I always do.
Always do. Good.
All right. Yeah. We ought to talk about maybe next week is the how Professor X seems to be have jettisoned from the X-Men franchise in the comics.
I have thoughts on that, but I have to finish reading that book first. But I have thoughts.
Ryan, Bob, you want to talk about your content, your channels, yourselves?
Yes. I'm just ticking over as normal at the moment. Had a lot of work on, so I've just been putting out the usual weekly thing, and that will continue. Rockwood Files season 4 starting next weekend, and anything else I can fit in between. So that's me.
Sweet.
I tomorrow will probably be doing a deeper dive into the Daily Wire's attempted adaptation at the Pendragon cycle.
Oh, sure.
Because I just find it interesting. I don't know what I'll say, but
I want to hear about it, but I want to hear about it from you. I don't want to actually look into it myself. I'd like to hear you look into it.
I'm also developing in my head, brainstorming a series of videos where I woke spot the Critical Drinker's 5 favorite movies. I just have to figure out what format I'm going to use. I've got a couple of ideas that I'm toying around with. But all 5 of his favorite movies are super woke, and he doesn't seem to realize it. And woke by his own metric.
His metrics, yeah.
Interesting.
If you need a pronunciation guide for any of the names in the Pendragon series,
Scottish man,
probably.
I'll just use the ones that are used by dumb fans on the internet, like Taliesin,
Well,
Merkin.
that's pretty simple. It's the ones with the Welsh spellings that are really tricky. But yeah.
Well, I know that the double D in Welsh is pronounced like the TH.
Yeah.
And the W is pronounced, I think, like oo, basically.
Mostly, yeah, for the most part. Not always, though.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, mostly. Yeah, and the Y is pronounced like an I again, mostly.
I'll just be looking. I mean, I'll just be looking at like articles and videos and stuff. So I'm not going to be reading anything from the actual books.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing any of the pronunciation.
Yeah. I'm sure the Daily Wire will get all of that right.
Yep.
Well.
Well, okay. I do have to go though. So here is since Max Japan asked for it, here it is. At least this version of it. I will look for the Virgin original. But yeah, y'all have a good week. Talk to you later.
Praise Bill.
Whoops.
Have a million spider folk, which doesn't even make sense when you consider Peter's origin.
I define everybody that's not Peter Parker as an unoriginal Peter Parker.
Talking about Peter Darker.
Fun fact. Eric used to like the character, even saying he's more than just a black Peter Parker, but he changed his tune when he found out he could make more money pandering to racist comic book fans who hate Miles Morales.
You're just actively making shit up, ha ha ha.
Did you used to like him? Not judging or whatever. Just curious.
No. Do you like Miles Morales then?
No.
Yeah, some characters have been written decently that are of different races and have suited up in the suit of a hero or a version of that hero. One of the more obvious is Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
You're just actively making shit up, ha ha ha.
Miles Morales has his own background. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy.
Talking about Peter Darker.
But Miles is an exception, make no mistake.
I define everybody that's not Peter Parker as an unoriginal Peter Parker.
And it will always be preferable to have another character with his own unique skill set, unique art. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy.
Forced adversary.